Who in my family does the most negotiating? It might surprise you to learn that I probably do the least. As I listen to the conversation between my wife and our two little daughters, Hannah and Rachel, I notice that they're constantly negotiating with each other. When to get out of bed, whether one can watch television, what to wear, and when the clothing must go on, and who must put it on, and what will breakfast be, and who will go out and wait for the bus, when, and who will do what after school, and so on. Of course, I'm a large part of many of these conversations, but I know they continue long after I've left for the classroom. Before you have kids, you kind of know that children don't always do what they're told, but when you have kids, even wonderful kids, you start to appreciate how much that's true. You find you spend much of the day dealing with pushback, positional impasses, haggling, irrational conflict, and other aspects of negotiation. Can you do better? Can you negotiate well with children? Now, it may sound as if I'm starting to teach a session for parents only. I'm not. As we've seen, one of the most frequent negotiation problems people ask is how to negotiate with difficult people. As we'll see, many of the ideas that can help parents negotiate better with kids can also help any negotiator work better with counterparts who seem unwilling to listen to reason. And let's face it, in many places, adults very much act like children. For example, as the saying goes, Hollywood is high school with money. Learning to negotiate with children may help you deal better with truculent or immature adults. But let's start by looking at kids from the parent's perspective. Like most people, you can feel as if the only choice for parenting children is between being mean and being lenient. Of course, because I said so is sometimes the right answer. Holding fast to it may be an essential part of parenting. And conversely, sometimes giving in and letting the child have what he wants is the right answer. Most parents know that while they can't always give in to their kids, neither can they just give direct orders all the time. Every parent negotiates. The big question is how. Most parent-child negotiation is pretty contentious and positional. You have to go to bed now. No. Yes, now. No. 5 minutes. I'll give you 1 minute and that's it. No. But there is another way. My 6-year-old daughter, Hannah, hates to have her hair brushed. This fact led to a running conflict for us. Every morning when my wife brushed Hannah's hair for school, an epic battle would begin. Often, these battles would end in tears and shouting. But then we introduced a simple rule that changed things for the better. The rule worked well enough that we found it works on other conflicts too, and that it also works well with our other daughter, Rachel, who is 3. Of course, nothing is foolproof with children, but we've been surprised how helpful this little rule can be. In essence, the rule is a specific negotiated solution, a settlement, if you will. And best of all, it's a deal that lets parent and child each feel happy. What was the rule? In this session, we'll discover the answer as we explore how parents can use basic negotiation principles to be more effective and loving with their children. Like many child development experts, school principals, and teachers, I believe that these skills can do a great deal to improve the happiness and well-being of our families. In the process, we'll see ideas that can help you deal better with conflict generally, including conflicts with adults. Don't worry. If you're a parent, there are definitely times when you won't negotiate, maybe much of the time. But bringing negotiating skills home can make you even more versatile, relaxed, and effective as a parent. Let's not stop there. Since we're talking about family life, we'll also consider how to encourage children to use negotiating principles to become more mature, become better problem solvers, more effective in their dealings with others, and better prepared for the larger world. So what is the rule that helped us brush Hannah's hair? We call it the stop-go game. One of us might say something like this: "Okay, sweet pea, let's make a deal. I will brush your hair, but you can say stop anytime you think it's starting to hurt, and I will stop. And I won't go again until you say go. Want to try it?" The power of this rule is that it gives a measure of control to our daughter. Now, you might think she will simply say stop at the drop of a hat and never say go again. That's not how it goes typically. Usually, our daughter likes the sense of power the rule gives her and likes to try it out by saying, "Stop, go, stop, go." Of course, we like the rule because it makes her more cooperative. It only takes a few moments to brush a little girl's hair, and the few extra moments it takes when she says stop is briefer than the time we used to spend in verbal combat. We also like the rule because it helps us avoid hurting our girls. We found that we can use the same rule to wash their hair or remove a Band-Aid. And there may be an additional benefit. It may reinforce their sense of self-respect and personal boundaries, which we hope will serve them well when they become young women. The stop-go game is a simple example of an interest-based solution to a common parent-child conflict. Knowing how to use an interest-based approach and other negotiating skills with children is a very good idea for a number of reasons. Here's one. Children are natural negotiators, so you better have some powerful negotiation skills of your own, or you'll be in trouble. As you may have noticed, they're also especially skilled at using sharp bargaining tactics. Even when she was 2, our little daughter Rachel would refuse to come out of the bath, invariably asking us for 1 more minute. A minute later, she would ask for 2 more minutes. As we saw in our session on sharp bargaining tactics, that's a simple nibbling move. Closely related is a child's bread and butter negotiation gambit, persistence tactics. Can I, Mom? Can I? Can I please? Can I please? Please? Can I? Can I? Can I? As they get older, kids become skilled at making demands with the help of threats, fibs, and bluffs. In fact, child psychologists actually consider lying a developmental milestone for children. That may be cold comfort when you feel like your 4-year-old is behaving like a Soviet negotiator, shouting, threatening, dissembling, and turning chairs over as she stalks out of the room. We've seen before that negotiating skills can help negotiators talk down hostage takers and help heads of state negotiate peace treaties. So there's good reason for hope that similar ideas can help us deal with those tough negotiators we call children. But what about the natural and understandable objection that children should do what they're told without getting anything in return? Isn't all this talk about negotiating inviting us to coddle and spoil them? Won't it embolden them and make them feel they're equal to us rather than our children? Don't children need a sense of limits and discipline? Isn't negotiating with them a denial of those needs? Those are extremely valid questions, and let's face it, if anything we do causes children to be spoiled, reckless, and arrogant, we shouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. But throughout this course, we've seen that it's quite possible to fight well for your key concerns without either giving away too much to your counterpart or making her feel diminished, humiliated, or impoverished. We rightly want our children's respect for their sake as much as ours, and there are times where we have to immediately have the final say. When a child is about to walk into traffic, she has to know that stop means stop. Similarly, when a child acts very badly, hurts another child, or breaks a lamp intentionally, she has to know that she will face consequences so she doesn't do it again. But much of the time, a strict authoritarian approach tends to work against our purposes. This is the wisdom of The Horse Whisperer. That movie, starring Robert Redford, was based in part on Buck Brannaman, a man who became one of the world's leading experts on horse trading. Buck uses an approach that's radically different from what conventional wisdom used to say about how to handle horses. Rather than taking a strict authoritarian approach to horse training, Buck uses an approach called natural horsemanship. Natural horsemanship is based on the idea of using an understanding of how horses think and communicate to help them accept humans and work confidently and responsibly with them. Buck is not always sweet and gentle with his horses, but he is far more attuned to them than most are. How did Buck become such a remarkable horse handler? He traces his passion for his work to a difficult childhood. Sadly, his father was so abusive that Buck and his brother spent years in foster care. Abused horses, he says, are like abused children. They trust no one and expect the worst. As he puts it, I've tried every physical means to contain my horse. I started to realize that things would come much more easily for me once I learned why a horse does what he does. Sound familiar? As we saw in the first session, one of the most important things a skilled negotiator does is find out what the other one wants and why, to deeply understand his counterpart. If that approach can work with hostage takers and horses, then maybe it can help us lead our children. In fact, many of the ideas Buck Brannaman uses with horses and that interest-based negotiators use with counterparts are similar to a set of ideas recommended by child development experts called positive discipline. That's an approach that teaches parents to be firm and understanding with the help of empathy and limited choices. All of these approaches share the central insight that you can be hard on the problem, soft on the person. An interest-based approach can signal that we respect our children and can give them safety and buy-in, even as we set clear limits. Even horses need a sense of respect and safety and respond well when a trainer gives it to them. Beyond this, an interest-based approach works because it's far less coercive than more authoritative parenting strategies, authoritarian strategies. Anyone, a horse, a hostage taker, or a nation who feels coerced is much more likely to feel resentful, diminished, and resistant. Think about it. When a child's grabbing a toy, shouting, and making demands, we say he's acting childishly, but really he's acting coercively, and playmates and parents alike resent it. Since we're trying to raise adults, not children, using a method that breaks that cycle and influences without coercion can give us a 2-for-1. Not only can it change the child's behavior, it can also teach what thoughtfulness looks like. So how might we use an interest-based approach with our young children? One simple example is a way to lovingly say no. Just because I adore you doesn't mean I'll give you everything you want. Here, the parent is setting a very clear limit, even as she reminds the child of her love. Here's another example. I can't let you watch TV all afternoon, but I really get that you're bored, and I can give you a couple of choices that I'm okay with. Now, of course, the child might throw a conniption fit in response. You know what that is. Positional bargaining, coupled with a noisy, sharp bargaining tactic. If your child persists, you can disengage. You can go to the balcony and set positive limits at the same time by saying, well, I can't let you shout and scream like that. Why don't I give you a little while to calm down, and when you're ready to talk, we can decide which choice is best for you. It may seem that an interest-based approach will only work with typically developing or so-called gifted children, but experts report that it works too with children with special needs. Indeed, it may be more important. That's because adults working with children with special needs can unwittingly pamper them on the one hand or punish them on the other, instead of teaching them to do better in ways they can understand. Consider, for example, as described in the book Positive Discipline for Children with Special Needs, the work of Jane Nelson, Stephen Foster, and Arlene Raphael. There, they describe a little boy named Ricky with several special needs who was often aggressive toward other children in school. Instead of punishing him or letting the behavior slide, Joel, his teacher, would often begin their conversations by saying this, I know you're mad and sad a lot of the time. How can I help you? He would invite Ricky to consider solutions by showing him an anger wheel of choice that had different alternatives to solve problems. These included sharing feelings, drawing feelings, mashing Play-Doh, and a positive timeout where the child sat with the adult. As Ricky began to trust him more, Joel was able to intercede whenever Ricky hurt another child. In these situations, Joel asked Ricky what he thought might help that child. As time went on, Ricky might elect to apologize. On one occasion, he offered to save a prized red cup for the other child when he set the snack table. How did Ricky's teacher penetrate a troubled child's strong defensive and teach him to be more peaceful and kind? By understanding him and making clear that he understood that even when Ricky was hurting other people, Ricky himself was feeling hurt. By addressing that crucial point, Joel was able to help Ricky to be gradually more open to problem solving. You can adjust an interest-based approach to an age-appropriate strategy. To a 6-year-old, you can say, "You have to eat your vegetables this evening, but you can help me choose which vegetables we'll have." To a 3-year-old, instead of offering her verbal choices, you can insist that she eat her vegetables, but offer an eating game to make it more fun. One of my family's favorites is ready, aim, fire. You take a spoonful of food, you say ready, and the child opens her mouth. You pull your arm back like an arrow, say aim, and then pop it into the waiting child's open mouth as you say fire. One additional advantage of interest-based negotiation with children is that it fosters a sense of the child's autonomy and empowerment without diminishing your authority, even as it fosters a greater sense of trust in you, since it signals that you understand the child's interests and are open to addressing them reasonably. A related idea is offering the child a meso. As we saw in Lecture 12, a choice of 2 different options you're indifferent to. For example, instead of saying, "Help set the table now," you might do much better by saying, "Would you like to set the table now, or clear the table and help me wash the dishes?" Or, "Would you like to put out the plates and napkins, or the knives, forks, and spoons?" Studies find that giving anyone, an adult or a child, choice gives her a greater sense of satisfaction and buy-in, even though it can produce more favorable outcomes for the one who offers the choice. No discussion of negotiating with children would be complete without a look at incentives, which in a sense every parent throughout history has resorted to. Eat your vegetables, then you can have a popsicle. We use that one in our home a lot. I've been surprised how effective incentives can be in everything from helping children with potty training to learning their numbers and letters. Stickers, gummy bears, little bracelets, and the like at times can be almost magical motivators. Personally, I've wondered if too many incentives can give children the wrong impression that there must be a reward for every good behavior. But I've been surprised to learn that most child educators, caretakers, and parents find that within limits, incentives don't create this impression, and I haven't seen it in our home either. Another negotiating skill you can use is an idea we've discovered earlier called if we agree, if we disagree. Here, as you'll recall, you can show the listener how saying yes to your offer will satisfy her interests and how saying no to your offer may mean she won't satisfy her interests. For example, you can say, if you do your homework, you can have fun watching 10 minutes of television and you'll get to see the new Dora the Explorer episode. If you don't, you may not have much fun and you won't get to see Dora and will only have time for you to brush your teeth. A related set of negotiating concepts that can particularly be valuable when working with children is question asking and listening. You can foster better language skills, a better relationship, and better conversation using these methods. Actively listening to what a young child says helps her know you hear what she says and know that she's making sense. It gives her a pleasing sense of being heard. In conflict and negotiations with a small child, it can be calming, empowering, and respectful to get down on the child's level, look squarely in her eye, making eye contact, and inviting her to talk. It can also help to recap what she said. You don't want to go to the party, do you? You seem angry at Shelley. Don't do this while the child is in full meltdown mode, since she probably won't process it then. She can't. Instead, stay calm, don't talk much, and when you do, speak with gentleness. When she calms down, you can use the question-asking and active listening approach more effectively. Like many highly distressed adults, small children have difficulty answering open-ended questions past a point. For example, tell me why you're upset or what's going on with you can sometimes leave them confused and frustrated because they may lack the language skills to talk clearly at length about what's bothering them. In these situations, it may help to frame questions as choices. Are you angry because of X or Y? Do you want to stay home because of A, B, or C? Choice questions also let you home in more precisely on what the trouble is as you learn more. Here too, you can be hard on the problem, soft on the person, dealing with the problem without attacking the child's feelings or character. It's okay to feel angry or sad about not watching SpongeBob. It's not okay to throw your sister's toy at the TV. Then you can gradually turn to options. You can ask the child to get involved with the solution, asking her to suggest ideas. Doing that increases the odds that she'll buy into the solution. One creative option that can work with children is to grant an otherwise unfulfillable request in fantasy, if not in reality. What a wild idea! Wouldn't it be great if we could invite Santa to our house for lunch today? We can't really do that, but let's pretend he's here right now. As a child gets older, active listening can foster fuller conversation and sharing by signaling that it's safe to share hard things with you because you really get them. Of course, you don't constantly actively listen. Simply giving full attention is often enough. But occasionally showing that you really get it is a deeply satisfying and respectful experience that older kids crave. What about kids who are fighting with each other? Can negotiation skills help there? By the time a child is 3, she can learn a variety of creative options for coping with fights with siblings and friends over toys. These include sharing, taking turns, trading, eeny-meeny, and other fair processes, having both kids do something else, and generously letting the other kid enjoy the toy. You can foster these types of creative problem solving by putting up a simple picture chart to help children remember and practice them. When a big child won't do any of these things and instead tries to push a small child around, you can say, okay, each of you will get a few of the toys that the other likes, and then you have to pick a way to work it out, like sharing or trading. And this point brings us to a larger point, that you can help kids in lots of ways by teaching them to negotiate. In fact, children at all ages value negotiation skills training. Studies find that young children prefer negotiation to other forms of conflict management when they're presented with a choice. Also, studies find that training young children to negotiate for 30 minutes a week for 6 weeks in school lastingly improves their ability to work out problems without teacher involvement. Many schools have introduced negotiation training programs for this very reason, with remarkable success. I'm particularly fond of the work of the Morningside Center for Teaching Social Responsibility, which has introduced a powerful negotiation training program for primary and secondary schools in New York City. Independent researchers found the program especially improved the social and academic success of children who were at risk of failing in middle school. As one principal of an inner-city Bronx middle school reported, he is a waiting list for kids to get into the negotiation program, and the kids in the program put their training to use daily. Not surprisingly, he's become an enthusiastic supporter. As children get older, they need more autonomy and have greater language skills, but they may struggle to use those skills effectively without whining, shouting, or shutting down. So teaching older children some basic negotiation skills and practicing with them can help in all of these ways. In fact, there are some stark examples of how failing to show children the value of negotiation can cause problems. Let me first share a story about a parent who, in effect, taught her child not to negotiate. I'll call the little girl Stephanie. During Stephanie's early childhood, her mother made it a point to take a hard line whenever Stephanie acted out or disobeyed her. At many of these moments, Stephanie's mother would use a favorite catchphrase, "I don't negotiate with children." The first day that Stephanie's mother brought her to kindergarten, Stephanie got into trouble. During playtime, she took another child's toy and hit him with it when he asked for it back. The teacher told the mother that as Stephanie hit the boy, she shouted, "I don't negotiate with children." Now, not every kid internalizes a no negotiation policy that deeply, but Stephanie's story illustrates that kids learn from us whether we want them to or not, and that making negotiations sound bad can really backfire, especially since negotiation is such a vital life skill. So it may be wise to intentionally equip them with the skill by teaching them how. You can teach a child to negotiate in several ways. You have a head start if you model the skills in your parenting and in your relationships with your spouse and others. As we've said, for children ages 3 or 4, you can start to introduce simple negotiation skills by putting up simple drawings of different ways to solve fights over toys. Then you can encourage them to stand beside the pictures and pick a solution they both like. You can also carry these pictures with you to the playground. Even without pictures, you can simply teach young children these choices verbally and ask them about their choices when conflicts arise. By the time kids are in 2nd grade, you can explicitly teach them interest-based negotiation using something called the 5 W's. There, W's. Here, they learn to ask each other 5 questions during a conflict. What's our problem? Where are you coming from? Where am I coming from? What are some possible win-win solutions? Which one shall we choose? You can teach these ideas to a child, demonstrate them, and invite the child to practice them by play acting with you a pretend conflict she might have had recently. Once she gets the questions, you can challenge her to try it out for real for the next time she has a problem with another kid and debrief her about how they're working for her. Treat failures as a way to learn and encourage her. As you already know, negotiation is definitely a learnable skill. In fact, in some schools, children as young as 1st graders learn to mediate in peacemaking programs. After learning to apply simple interest-based bargaining ideas, they sometimes get little green shirts that say peacemaker on them and help other kids work out problems on the playground. Teaching a child negotiation skills takes some patience and repetition, but kids tend to like the training because they can see its immediate application to their daily lives. Primary school teachers report that negotiation training is so effective that the effects in the classroom are often dramatic. As one teacher put it, before the training, her kids came back from recess needing 20 minutes of help working out conflicts they'd had on the playground before they could focus on learning. But once kids had been trained to negotiate, they could work out most of their problems themselves and come back ready to learn. As your child gets older, you can also increasingly encourage her to negotiate selected conflicts at home. Imagine your child wants to stay up late to watch a movie Friday night, but you're concerned she'll be too tired for Saturday morning soccer. She uses a variety of childish tactics that start to wear you out. What can you do? Of course, one choice is to simply lay down the law. Sometimes that is the right choice. But you have other treatment options, and one of them is interest-based negotiation. First, you can change the conversation by going to the balcony, taking a break for a few minutes, saying, "We can talk about it in 10 minutes. Let's both use that time to think about how we might let you enjoy a movie without hurting your soccer tomorrow." Then, when you resume, you can reframe the question again. How can we let you enjoy a movie and make sure you're up for the game tomorrow? Since you can block the movie, your child has an incentive to think of ways to solve the problem. Separately, you can appeal to her interests. Remember when you stayed up late last month and you said you were too tired to play a good game the next day? I'm concerned you'll have the same problem. Let's see how we can make it better this time. Separately, you can tell your child simple stories that illustrate key negotiation concepts. A good place to start is by telling the parable of the orange that we used in session 1. You can also integrate negotiation ideas into stories you're reading. You can stop the story in the middle before it resolves and ask what each of the character really wants and what might be some ways to make them all happy. As your child gets older, you can also give her simple negotiation challenges we've come up with in earlier sessions. For example, you can challenge her to do the exactly challenge. There, you ask her to say back what she hears you say during a conversation with her so that you can say exactly. Ask her to do at least 2 or 3 times. You might also want to practice with her the fair fight challenge, where you each do the exactly challenge in turn during a disagreement. That may be a particularly good way to help her learn how to work out problems with friends and eventually her spouse. When she's old enough, you may even want to sit her down and teach her the I foresaw it preparation mnemonic we explored in an earlier session. And of course, at some point, you may want to let her see this video course. Negotiation skills can help children prepare for the adult world. They can also help adults succeed there more fully than you may now realize. In the increasingly volatile world of work, negotiating skills can reveal hidden career-building opportunities that can help you start a business, find a job, or serve a particular organization more fully. We'll see how to do that in specific, powerful ways in our next session.